The scream comes first. Not music. Not laughter. Not the gentle sound of vows spoken in love. A scream. Sharp. High-pitched. Tearing through the air like fabric ripped by violent force. It echoes off the cold stone walls and marble columns of the atrium. It cuts through the thick smoke of burning pine torches and the heavy, suffocating smell of oil and nervous sweat. This is how a Roman wedding begins. Today, in our modern world, we picture weddings as scenes of purity, white dresses, smiling faces, and promises whispered softly between two people in love. But in ancient Rome, roughly 2,000 years ago, marriage did not start with romance. It started with terror. The bride was not just expected to look beautiful, she was expected to look afraid. In fact, if she didn't cry, if she didn't resist, if she didn't sound absolutely terrified, something was considered legally and spiritually wrong. A silent bride meant bad luck. A quiet woman meant the gods might turn their backs on the union. So the scream mattered. It was a performance, yes, but it was a performance rooted in a dark reality. It told the gathering crowd that this was not desire. It told the household spirits that this was force. It told Rome that the patriarchal order was being preserved. Because in Rome, marriage was strictly about ownership. A woman did not simply join a household. She was surgically removed from one and delivered to another. Her body, her future, her legal rights, even her religion, everything she was transferred like property in a business transaction. The Romans dressed this violence in elaborate ritual. They hid it beneath prayers, jokes, and ancient tradition. But at its core, the wedding was a reenactment of an abduction. A legal kidnapping sanctioned by the state. And everyone in the room knew it. Tonight, we peel back the layers of history to follow one bride. Her name is Aurelia. She is young, barely out of childhood. She is terrified. Dawn creeps into Aurelia's family home like a silent ghost. The house is quiet, but it is not peaceful. The air smells of stale smoke and damp stone from the night before. Somewhere in the courtyard, a torch crackles, fighting the morning light. Footsteps echo softly on the mosaic floors, women moving, whispering, preparing for the sacrifice. Aurelia sits still on a wooden stool. She has been bathed in water that was specially drawn for this occasion. Her skin smells faintly of olive oil and bitter herbs. Her hands tremble in her lap, clenching the fabric of her tunic. She does not speak. She is not allowed to complain. Around her, the older women, the matrons of the family, work in a heavy silence. Her hair is brushed again and again, pulled tight, heavy against her scalp. This is not vanity. This is a ritual of transformation. Then, the most chilling object of the ceremony is brought out. It is not a flower. It is not a ribbon. It is a spear. A real weapon of war. Cold iron. Dull with age. The kind once used to spill human blood on the battlefield. This is the Hasta Caelibaris, the celestial spear. Tradition dictates that for the marriage to be blessed, the bride's hair must be parted not with a comb, but with this spear. And not just any spear, it must be a weapon that has known death. Some historians claim it had to be pulled from the body of a fallen gladiator. Others say it must have killed an enemy soldier. Either way, it has tasted life leaving a body. Now, it touches Aurelia's head. The sharp point presses against her scalp, threatening to cut. Slowly, carefully, the women part her hair down the middle with the blade. Cold metal against warm, living skin. Why would an instrument of death touch a bride on her wedding day? Because Romans believed marriage was a kind of death. The death of a woman's identity. From this moment on, Aurelia is being cut away from her past. Once the spear has done its work, Aurelia's hair is braided into 6 distinct sections and tied up high with woolen ribbons, mimicking the style of the Vestal Virgins. She now looks like the matrons of ancient Rome, statuesque, severe, and imprisoned by tradition. She is then dressed in the tunica recta, a simple white tunic woven in a specific, ancient way. It is bound at the waist by a belt made of wool, tied in a very complicated knot known as the knot of Hercules. This knot is not for decoration. It is a challenge. It is a symbol of the virginity that must be guarded, only to be untied by the groom later in the darkness of the bedroom. But the most striking part of her attire is the veil. It is not the soft, sheer white veil of modern brides. It is the flammium. A large, heavy veil that covers her almost completely. And its color is significant. It is the color of flame. A deep, bright yellow-orange, like the heart of a fire or the flash of lightning. To the Roman eye, she looks like a candle flame walking. Fire represents passion, yes, but it also represents destruction. Fire consumes everything it touches. By wearing the flammium, Aurelia signals that she is the offering. She is the object to be consumed by the new household. She wears yellow shoes to match, grounding her in the color of the earth and hearth. Aurelia's mother stands in the corner, watching this transformation. She adjusts the veil, her hands lingering for a moment on her daughter's shoulders. She knows what comes next. She knows the script. In a few moments, she will have to play her part in the drama. She will have to pretend to fight for her daughter, only to lose her. She is already grieving, mourning the girl who is still standing right in front of her. The preparation is complete. The victim is ready. The heavy wooden doors of the house burst open. The silence is shattered. A group of men enters the atrium, their voices loud, their presence aggressive. The groom is among them. He does not smile. He does not look lovingly at his bride. This is not a moment of joy, it is a moment of performance, and the script demands violence. This is the beginning of the Raptio. Aurelia is brought forward. According to the ritual, she must run to her mother. She must throw her arms around her mother's waist, clinging to her as if her life depends on it. Aurelia buries her face in her mother's tunic, sobbing. Her mother holds her tight, wailing, clutching her daughter's fabric, hair, skin, anything she can hold onto. It is a scene of desperate resistance. Then, the groom steps forward. He grabs Aurelia. Not gently. Hard. He seizes her by the arm or the waist. He pulls her away with force. Aurelia cries out, a genuine scream of pain and fear mixing with the theatricality of the moment. The groom tightens his grip and physically tears her free from her mother's grasp. The mother reaches out, fingers grasping at empty air, as her daughter is dragged towards the door. The crowd watches this struggle with approval. They nod. They cheer. To us, this looks like an assault. To them, this is sacred. This is required. It is a direct reenactment of Rome's foundation myth, the rape of the Sabine women. In the earliest days of Rome, Romulus and his men had no wives. They invited their neighbors, the Sabines, to a festival. At a signal, they drew their weapons and abducted the unmarried Sabine women, dragging them off to be forced wives. Every Roman wedding is a tribute to that mass kidnapping. Every bride is a Sabine woman, being conquered by a Roman soldier. Aurelia is carried across the threshold and out into the street. The sunlight burns her eyes after the dim interior of the house. The noise grows deafening. The procession begins, the Pampa. This is the walk from her father's house to the groom's house. But this is no fairy tale carriage ride. It is a chaotic, loud, and aggressive parade. Aurelia does not walk freely. She is guided, pushed, pulled forward by two boys who hold her arms, while a third boy walks ahead carrying a torch lit from her father's hearth. The streets smell of dust, unwashed bodies, and smoke. The crowd surrounds her, pressing close, invading her personal space. And they are shouting. But they are not shouting congratulations. They are shouting insults. They chant obscene jokes. They sing fescennine verses, dirty, sexually explicit songs that describe in graphic detail what will happen in the bedroom later that night. They mock the groom for his lust. They mock the bride for her innocence. The Romans believed that this verbal abuse was necessary. They thought that if the couple was too happy, the evil eye, invidia, would curse them. So, to protect them, they humiliated them. Aurelia hears every word. The crude descriptions of her body. The laughter about her virginity. Her face burns with shame behind the flame-colored veil. Children run alongside the procession, scrambling to pick up walnuts that the groom throws into the crowd. The nuts represent his childhood toys, he is throwing them away, symbolizing that he is leaving childish things behind to become a man, a master. But for Aurelia, there is no such symbol of power. She is simply the prize being paraded through the city, while the city laughs at her expense. The procession finally arrives at the groom's house. The noise of the crowd seems to hit a wall as they stop before the entrance. This is the new domain. This is the fortress she must breach. But she cannot simply walk in. The doorway is a spiritual barrier, a dangerous liminal space between the outside world and the sacred interior of the family home. Before she can enter, a strange and visceral ritual must take place. Aurelia is handed a small pot of oil and fat. Tradition dictates that she must anoint the doorposts. This isn't just any fat. In many ancient accounts, it is specified as wolf's grease or pig's fat. She smears the thick, slick substance onto the wooden posts. It stains the wood dark. It smells animalistic. This act is apotropaic. It is meant to ward off evil spirits that might try to follow her inside. By greasing the door, she is sealing the home against bad luck. She then wraps the doorposts with wool bands, symbolizing her domestic duties. She is marking her territory, not as a ruler, but as a servant of the hearth. The groom stands on the other side of the threshold, watching. He holds fire and water, a torch and a basin. Aurelia must touch both. Fire and water are the two elemental necessities of life. By accepting them, she accepts her dependence on him. She is acknowledging that without him, she has no warmth and no sustenance. It is a surrender of autonomy. Ubi tu Gaius, ego Gaia, she whispers. Where you are Gaius, I am Gaia. It means, where you are the master, I am the mistress. But in reality, it means, I go where you go. I am yours. Now comes the most critical physical movement of the entire day. The threshold itself. In Roman superstition, the threshold was haunted by the deities of the boundary. To step on it was a grave insult to the gods. To trip over it was a catastrophe, an omen so bad that the marriage might as well end right there. Aurelia is exhausted. Her heavy veil blinds her, her dress is long and cumbersome. The risk of tripping is high. The groom knows this. He cannot risk the bad luck. So, he steps forward, or perhaps his attendants do, and they lift her up. This is the origin of carrying the bride over the threshold. It wasn't a romantic gesture of affection. It was a safety measure. It was to prevent the clumsy girl from cursing the entire household. She is lifted like a sack of grain, her feet dangling in the air, and deposited safely on the other side. The heavy door slams shut behind her. The noise of the street, the insults, the singing, the shouting crowd, is suddenly muffled. Inside, the air is cooler. Quieter. The walls feel closer. She is now legally in the Domus. She is no longer Aurelia of her father's house. She is now the property of this house. The guests filter into the atrium, but their laughter sounds different now. It is sharper. They are waiting for the final act. The banquet begins, but Aurelia cannot eat. She sits on a special chair, still veiled, like a statue placed in the corner. The guests drink wine, they feast on roasted meats, and the conversation grows louder and more raucous. They are celebrating the union, but for Aurelia, every minute that passes brings the inevitable closer. Finally, the pronuba, the matron of honor, approaches. She is an older woman, one who has been married only once and is still with her husband. She is the only one allowed to guide Aurelia to the bedroom. She takes the bride's hand. Her grip is firm. There is no escape. She leads Aurelia away from the party, down the corridor, towards the thalamus, the nuptial chamber. The bedroom is small. A single bed waits in the shadows, covered in flowers and herbs, but beneath the petals, it is a place of duty, not romance. The pronuba helps Aurelia sit on the edge of the bed. She whispers final instructions. Be obedient, she says. Do not fight. It will be over soon. But then, something truly disturbing happens. The guests do not leave. They gather outside the bedroom door. In some traditions, they even enter the room for a moment. They are the witnesses. They are there to ensure the contract is fulfilled. They sing the epithalamium, the wedding song. But these songs are rowdy, noisy, and meant to drown out the bride's cries so that the bad omens are not heard. The pronuba leaves. The door closes, but not fully. The groom enters. The room feels suffocatingly small. Aurelia stands up, trembling. She is still wearing her tunic, bound by that complicated belt, the cingulum. The knot of Hercules. This knot is the final defense. It is a symbol of her virginity, tied tightly and deliberately. The groom approaches her. He does not embrace her. He does not kiss her. His first task is technical. He must untie the knot. But he must do it with his bare hands, and he must do it alone. It is a test of patience and dexterity. But it is also a symbolic act of conquest. Hercules was the hero who conquered monsters, who took what he wanted by strength. By naming the knot after him, Rome made the groom into a conqueror and the bride into a captured city. He struggles with the wool. Aurelia holds her breath. She looks at the floor, at the flickering shadows cast by the oil lamp. She prays to Juno, the goddess of marriage, but Juno is a stern goddess. She offers no comfort, only the command to endure. The knot loosens. The belt falls to the floor. The last barrier is gone. What happens next is uncomfortable for modern minds to accept, but we must look at it through Roman eyes. There was no concept of marital rape in Roman law. A wife was property. Her body was owed to her husband. The wedding night was not about mutual pleasure, it was about consummation, the legal sealing of the contract. If Aurelia resists, she is breaking the law. If she fights, she is violating the religious sanctity of the marriage. Her terror is real, but it is irrelevant to the state. The groom extinguishes the lamp, or perhaps leaves it burning low. He takes her. Outside, the guests are still drinking. They might be listening. They might be making bets. The Fescennine verses are still being sung in the distance. The noise is designed to cover the reality of the room, the sound of a girl weeping, the sound of a struggle that is destined to be lost. This was the deflowering. Rome obsessed over this concept. They believed that a woman's blood on the sheets was proof of legitimacy. It was the receipt for the transaction. Without it, the groom could claim he had been sold damaged goods. The pressure on Aurelia is immense. She must bleed, she must submit, and she must survive. The sun rises over Rome. The torches have burned down to ash. The guests have gone home, stumbling through the streets. The house is quiet again. Aurelia wakes up. She is no longer the girl who watched the sunrise yesterday. That girl is dead. She is now a Matrona. She puts on the stola, the dress of a married woman. It is long, modest, covering her ankles. She binds her hair in the style of a wife. She walks out into the atrium. The household slaves look at her differently now. She has passed the test. She has survived the night. Her husband greets her. He might be kind today. He might offer her a gift. But the dynamic has been set forever. He is the owner, she is the possession. The violence of the night before is never spoken of again. It is buried under the label of tradition. She will now manage his house. She will bear his children. She will weave his wool. She will be the perfect Roman wife. But the memory of the spear, the abduction, the insults, and the dark room will stay with her. It is the secret trauma that every married woman in Rome shared, a silent sisterhood of fear. Why did Rome build its most sacred institution on fear? Why was the wedding designed as a trauma? Historians and anthropologists argue that it was about control. Rome was a militaristic society. They conquered the world with the spear. It makes sense that they conquered their women with the spear too. By staging the wedding as a kidnapping, they reinforced the idea that women had no agency. A woman didn't choose to leave her father, she was stolen. This absolved her of responsibility. If the marriage failed, it wasn't her fault, she was just a victim. But it also desensitized men to dominance. It taught them that love and force were the same thing. It taught them that no was just a part of the ritual, a word to be ignored. This psychology seeped into everything, their laws, their wars, their slavery. We look at the marble statues of Roman couples holding hands, the dexterum iunctio, and we see harmony. But we forget the screaming that preceded that handshake. We forget the wolf's grease on the door and the death spear in the hair. You might think this is ancient history. You might think these rituals are dead. But look closer at our own weddings. Why does the father give away the bride? It is a remnant of the property transfer. Why do we carry the bride over the threshold? It is the fear of the stumbling omen. Why do we throw rice or confetti? It is the same as the groom throwing walnuts, a distraction for the spirits, a wish for fertility. Even the white veil is a ghost of the flammeum, though we have forgotten its fiery meaning. We have sanitized the rituals. We have removed the spear and the wolf fat. We have replaced the screaming with music. But the skeleton of the Roman wedding is still there, hiding under the tulle and the lace. We are still reenacting the echoes of an ancient abduction. Let us go back to Aurelia one last time. Imagine her standing in the atrium, years later. She is a mother now. She has a daughter of her own. She watches her daughter playing in the courtyard, innocent and free. And she knows. She knows that one day, the men will come for her daughter too. She knows she will have to stand in the corner and watch as the spear touches her child's head. She knows she will have to let her daughter be dragged away screaming, and she will have to do nothing. Because that is the Roman way. It is a cycle of trauma passed down from mother to daughter, disguised as a celebration. A golden cage built of laws and legends. So the next time you see a wedding, remember the scream. Remember the spear. Remember the forbidden ritual that Rome tried to hide behind its marble facade. History is not just about emperors and battles. It is about the private terrors lived in small rooms. It is about the Aurelias of the world, whose voices were drowned out by the wedding songs. Rome conquered the world, but it never conquered its own fear of women. And perhaps, that was its greatest weakness of all. Thank you for watching. If you want to uncover more dark secrets of the ancient world, subscribe and join us in the next excavation of history.